production funding for Behind the Headlines is made possible in part by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Sheriff Floyd Bonner on the jail, juvenile justice, and more tonight on Behind the Headlines. I'm Eric Barnes, President and Executive Editor of the Daily Memphian. Thanks for joining us. I am joined tonight by Shelby County Sheriff Floyd Bonner, Jr. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Along with Bill Dries, reporter with the Daily Memphian. Let's start. You are newly elected in the this past fall, so been in office 3-4 months. There's a lot of conversation right now. We've done a number of shows about, or where we touched on, the question of juvenile justice, and specifically the Juvenile Justice Center and the county pondering $1.3 million investment, sort of down payment on a new juvenile justice center towards ultimately, I think, about a $25 million project. Do you think, let's just start there, do you think the county should put money towards a new juvenile justice center?
Well, as you know, as the sheriff, we run the detention center there at juvenile court. And I think the last time the detention center was added on or kind of redone was in the 90s. So you're talking about a facility that's extremely old, outdated. We've been talking about building a new justice or detention center for the juveniles now for about, 3, 4, 5 years. And I think it's come time now that we really get serious about it. We hope that the county commission will fund it. As you know, right now we're talking about, they're going through the prelim things, trying to get the architect, but I think it's supposed to cost around $25 million. So,
and you all, effectively, your office, the sheriff's office, provides what I guess layman would think of as a layperson would think of as the guards at the detention center in juvenile justice. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
About how many people are there of your staff?
About 75.
About 75.
Yes, sir.
One of the questions is about that the Juvenile Justice Center has also been under scrutiny. There was federal oversight that has ended since the President Trump's administration and former Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Where did you stand on whether federal oversight should continue or end?
Well, I thought it should end. I mean, we took over juvenile court, the sheriff's office, took over juvenile court in 2015. I think when DOJ actually came into juvenile court was 2012. So it had been going on. So when the sheriff, the previous sheriff, Sheriff Odom, decided that he would handle the detention for juvenile court, we came in and we looked at what DOJ was asking, and we did everything. I mean, we were at 94% of the things that DOJ was asking us to do, and the other 6% was because the facility was so old that we couldn't do things about the facility. So it kind of rendered us, helpless there in that part of it. But I think what we did learn, we learned a lot of things. We received a lot of training. Our officers received a lot of training. We had a lot of help from different organizations, national organizations. Dr. David Roush, who was one of the first DOJ monitors that came in at that time. The sheriff's office has now hired Dr. Roush as a consultant because we want to continue down the right path. We take it very seriously, and we're gonna keep moving forward.
Before I go to Bill, there was an incident, I believe, last week with some kind of incident that resulted in 11 juveniles being moved after some sort of, I would frame it an outburst, but I'll let you frame it as what it was. And there was some damage done within the juvenile detention center. 11 youths were moved to 201 Poplar, the adult jail, and two of your officers were suspended or in some fashion. Tell me what happened last week.
Well, last week we had a disturbance down at juvenile court, something that never occurred since we've been there. I was asked that the other day. I've never known it to happen, but we had a disturbance down there. About 14, 15 youth were involved in that disturbance. No officers were hurt. We had 2 juveniles that had non-life-threatening injuries. We took that 11, we took 11 of them down to 201 now. What many people don't know is that we've housed juveniles at 201 before in the past. We do have an area there that we can put them in that will meet the sight and sound requirements that the DOJ requires. So right now we've moved them down there, and as you said, it's about $3,500 to $5,000 worth of damage. There was some glass breakage, a TV was broken, and we're repairing that. As a matter of fact, everything, juvenile court is back up running until we get the glass, some of the windows repaired. Yeah. We expect to move the juveniles back to the facility on Friday, as a matter of fact.
But it was, and I missed, was it 5 officers that were suspended?
It was 5. Yes.
Suspended for what reason?
They were relieved of duty with pay.
And are they still?
And they still are. Right now, it's under investigation. We're looking into some things that happened down there, failures that we think that occurred right now. So it's still kind of under investigation. We're looking at what caused the fight, what was going on, what the officers were doing, just a whole entire situation.
You said 2 juveniles were injured, taken to hospital, or
they were seen by the medical staff there.
Were they injured?
At juvenile court.
Juveniles injuring each other, or injured by sheriff's
each
deputies?
Each other. Yes, sir.
And can you give shine any more light on why those officers were suspended?
No, we're not gonna talk about it right now. We're looking into it, and we want to get to the bottom of it.
Will that come out though? Will there be a full report of what happened once that investigation is complete?
When the case is completed, when it's done, it'll be there.
Okay, Bill.
Sheriff, you talked about the sight and sound requirement, and a lot of folks might not understand that, but you can't just take a group of juveniles and put them in any empty space in the jail. There are some pretty strict requirements, and sight and sound means that they can't be within sight or within sound of your adult population in that jail.
That's right. Yes, sir. Yeah.
So with a new detention center that the county commission is considering, what would you be able to do there that you're not able to do at the current detention center? Because you and Mayor Harris has also talked about this. You want to make it clear that this detention center, where children stay for I think an average of 25 days, that you don't want them just sitting there in some secure area.
Well, one of the things we found out since we've been operating the detention center is the busier we keep them, the less trouble that they get into, the less trouble our officers have with them. So we want to be able to keep these kids in classes for more than 4 hours a day, in schools for at least 6 hours a day. We'd like to see smaller housing units. Right now, I don't know if you've ever been down there to visit juvenile court, but the housing units are set up not appropriately. We would like to see pods, if you will, where the housing units, where the officers have more control. We don't have to use as many officers doing some of the things that we do with the kids down there. So it's an opportunity for us to just to have a better educational program, be able to get volunteers in, mentors. A lot of these kids, I say this all the time, no kid is born as a bad child. These kids are born into bad circumstances, and a lot of times these kids just don't know any other way. And so it's about bringing positive influence into the courts, to the detention center, and exposing them to positive people.
How much input does the sheriff as an office have in terms of how many juveniles wind up in detention? That's a decision that's made by other parts of the system, as I understand it.
It is right now. We take them as they come. Judge Michaels and the courts, they hear all the cases. I don't know if you know or not, but we have approximately 30 juveniles out of jail east that have been adjudicated. In other words, they're going to be tried as adults, and as they turn 18, they move down to 201. But they are also juvenile, even though they're being charged with adult crimes. they're still juveniles, and it has to meet the sight and sound requirements. So we have space out at Jail East that we keep those juveniles at.
Jail East, now go back to Bill, is more specifically, I thought it was built for women.
It was built for women. Yes,
But you've got, and how about how many, so the downtown jail is primarily men?
Yes.
Again, if we're talking about the adult
yes.
population.
Yes, sir.
But you've got space for 30 because you've outgrown the juvenile justice, the space at the Juvenile Justice Center? Is that why you've had to put them out there, or are they more or less violent, or what's the criteria for moving them out?
Well, actually outgrown the space. I mean, when you look at juvenile court, when you're trying to separate those kids, we didn't have the space down at 201 Poplar for that many kids. And we only had space for the 9 that we have down with this incident that occurred last week. So we had to make other arrangements and kind of retool ourselves, if you will.
Right.
And we moved those kids out at Jail East, out there that's getting ready to be adjudicated. And as they turn 18, they moved to 201. And but going back to Bill, your original question is that you know, it's kind of up to the courts. We have a call ahead program. We're doing all we can do to keep these kids, keeps the numbers down at juvenile court as we can. Judge Michaels, his staff down at juvenile court, they do a tremendous job trying to keep these kids out, getting them back to their parents, getting them back in society. I go, usually it's the last Tuesday of the month, go down to juvenile court and speak on the ceasefire to kids that have been involved or have gun crimes for the first time. And you go down there and we talk. Director Rollins has been there, I've been there, and you talking to these kids, trying to get them to understand that, you know, carrying a gun is so dangerous, so violent. It can be so violent. So these kids are first-time gun offenders, and we're the ladies down there just do a tremendous job, and so we're trying to do all we can do to keep them out of the system.
And so your contact with them, I mean, if you look at the offenses, if you look at what happened, that many times that got these children in juvenile court, it can be pretty scary if you don't ever talk to these children and realize that they are children despite the serious nature of this. If you never have that contact with them, you might think, this is really serious, let's just lock them up and throw away the key. What do you say to people who look at the offenses and think and have that kind of reaction to
And I understand that, because the kids down at juvenile court, these kids are not down there for truancy. They're down there for some serious crimes. Judge Michaels and the courts only keep kids that have committed some pretty serious crimes. But again, they're children, and you have to look at the things that they were exposed to growing up as children, and we were all kids once upon a time. We didn't always make the right decisions. I was fortunate, you know, I grew up in a home with a mother and a father, and I had aunts and uncles and grandmas, you know, that kind of kept an eye on us and everything. You know, we had structure in our lives, if you will, and a lot of these kids don't have that. And so when you talk to them and you really get down, when you really drill down with them and you talk to them, you see these kids have never had any structure in their lives. Some of these kids are even homeless down at juvenile court. And so who's there to teach them? Who's there to show them? And until, you know, we as a society, I often say the African proverbs, you know, it takes a village to raise a child. And so some of these kids, we just can't throw them away. You know, they're going to be here in the community.
A couple of questions, then we'll move on to other things. Staying on juvenile justice for a moment, the number of the current facility can house how many kids?
I think our current facility will house 120.
Is that an ideal number, or is that just what it can possibly do?
No,
so then the ideal number is more like.
I wish the ideal number was 0.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
But,
fair enough.
But we have been as low as back in December, November, December. We've been as low as like 49.
And the ratio of your staff, the guards, the deputies, to the number of students should be the number of kids should be what?
Well, I think DCS wants you to be at an 8-to-1 ratio.
Are you able to do that?
Well, right now, it's the night of the incident. We had 92 kids. 4 were females, 88 were males. That night we had 14 officers working that night.
Okay.
So,
last question: is it not? You talked about the desire to get these kids back on track, despite very horrible things that they may have done, or at least accused of doing. Is it not possible to do some of the mentoring and education in the current facility? Because part of the debate, it seems like, at the County Commission, Mayor Harris, others, about whether to invest in this new facility is it's a kind of variation on the chicken and egg. Some folks are saying, and in part you are saying, we need this new facility to do these other things like more education, more mentoring. Other people are saying, well, go ahead and start it now, prove that you are sincere about that, and then we'll fund it. Why not? Why can you not do more education, more mentoring in the current facility?
well, if you come down and look at the current facility, the roof leaks, education, you have to be in an environment that's conducive to learning. And you, with all the distractions and things that goes on down there, it's quite noisy sometimes, but the roof leaks, and it's just not an area that's conducive for learning right now.
Let's move on to another thing that's been in the headlines we've talked a little bit about on the show, which is immigration and the role of the county, and specifically your office, in enforcing detentions or raids by Immigration and Custom Enforcement. Thank you, ICE. And then a state law that was passed and went into effect January 1st that put more onus on local counties to enforce immigration laws. And then the Shelby County Attorney and Mayor Harris said, no, we're not doing that.
Right.
What is your understanding of your role when it comes to illegal immigration?
Well, first of all, I applaud the county mayor's office we asked for an opinion. They gave us an opinion on the new law. Let me explain the process.
Please.
Anyone that comes into our jail, we ask them, where were you born? Now, if you tell us that you were born anywhere outside of the United States, then we contact ICE, okay? We contact them, we let them know, hey, Eric's here at 201. He says he was born in Paris, France, okay? Now, it's up to the ICE agent to decide if he wants to come down and talk to you or...
Do you check for documentation? Do you ask if they are a legal immigrant?
No. We do not.
Are you required by law to ask that question?
No, we're required by law to ask them where they were born, what's their birthplace? Yes,
state law.
Yes,
I guess that's state law because that's all state
law. To ask them where were you born? What's your origin?
And then are you
required?
I'm sorry, just because I do think this is worth talking about because there's so much yelling about immigration, and this really is the kind of point at which some of this interactions between law enforcement and immigrants happen. So bear with me. Are you required by law to then report to the ICE officers that this person was born outside the United States?
Yes.
You are, by state law.
By state law.
And that's not the new law that just
That's not the new law.
That's been existing
That's
law.
been existing for years.
The new law tried to require you to do what then?
To hold.
In that circumstance where you ask, and this person says they're from Paris, France, the new law was going to say, well, you got to hold on to him.
Well, what we would do in that case is we would call ICE. ICE would say, yeah, I think we are interested in Eric. So would you hang on to him for 48 hours? Now, if you made your bond, ICE would still want us to hold you for an additional 48 hours. And that's where we kind of...
That's where you said no.
We said no. Okay. And we asked for the county opinion because the United States Constitution says that you can't hold anyone in a jail without probable cause, without a warrant, and ICE has neither. You know, they don't have a warrant. It's just a request. So
ICE raids. Do you all assist with raids by ICE? You do not.
No, sir. We do not.
Because in some areas, I don't know about in Tennessee, some areas of the country, local law enforcement does participate in
and I
ICE
think
raids.
there are some areas in Tennessee that will assist ICE on raids, but the Shelby County Sheriff's Office nor the Memphis Police Department. We don't
That's
assist.
a policy decision you've
Yes,
made and continued, I guess, in
Yes,
your.
sir.
And why?
Well, what you have to consider, we're trying to solve crime. We're trying to build bridges in the community. So if we go into the community, one of our detectives go into the community trying to solve a murder, for instance, are the immigrants or is that population going to talk to us, or do they think we're there on an ICE raid? You know, so it's so difficult for us to solve these crimes, and we're trying to build bridges. We're not trying to tear them down. I have no problem with ICE. I mean, ICE. You know, ICE is ICE. They do what they do. But I think that if the federal government would like to see that as a law, then they should pass something. You've noticed nothing has ever come out of Washington where it was a law. It's all just been request.
Yeah. You, again, we noted newly elected sheriff, but you've been involved with law enforcement for a long time.
38 years I've been at Shelby County Sheriff's Office.
Do you see I mean, right now in the national debate, there are folks, President Trump included, who imply or cite that there's a almost disproportionate amount of crime that comes from illegal immigrants. Is that your experience? Do you see a disproportionate or a high rate of crime locally among illegal immigrant?
No, we don't see it. You know, I know I've heard the president say that, but we don't see it here in Shelby County. No,
5 minutes left, Bill.
All right, and Sheriff, you talked about what the Sheriff's Department has to do. It seems to me as if you and Director Rawlings, who has made similar statements, that your position is, whatever the laws are regarding immigration, that's fine, but we have priorities here that our law enforcement agencies have to do, and our resources have to go toward that. Is that an accurate assessment of?
That is, Bill. I mean, very, very much so. I wish I had another 500 deputies, you know, to where I could do more things. But our resources now, we're a full-service law enforcement agency. Our resources are stretched to the limits now. You know, we have over 30,000 warrants on just citizens of Shelby County. That our fugitive division is out 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, out looking for people and stuff. So, I mean, to task us with that without any federal funding, without any, really any guidance from the federal government, and you're asking us to what I think is probably, the Constitution will not even allow us to do 48-hour holds anymore for police investigation, but yet you want me to take an immigrant because an ICE agent says, hold him, I might be interested in him, and that's another thing. That ICE agent may or may not come and get that person, you know, so, but you're asking me to hold him for 48 hours, just till you decide if you want to come get him or not.
And if the agents do come to talk to that person, they're not there on a probable cause basis, because they have met some kind of standard for holding someone. They're there in essence to find out if there is an issue that they might be interested in.
That's correct, and even the request is not even signed by a judge. I mean, the request is signed by a supervisor in the office. So I just think that there's a lot of legal questions and things that need to be cleaned up, if you will, if you want the local agencies to do it. I'm not trying to get Shelby County sued or the taxpayers to have to pay out some huge lawsuit because we've illegally held someone. I think it'll wash out eventually. You know, the attorney generals, I've talked to, well, when Mr. Sessions was the attorney general, and even Mr. Whitaker, who now no longer, they visited Memphis. When Mr. Whitaker was here, he told us in a group setting of West Tennessee law enforcement partners, he realized that we were not going out looking for immigrants, and he said that he was okay with it.
Whitaker being the acting attorney general.
He was the acting attorney general. Yes.
We have a minute and a half left. I have about 50 questions, but I'm going to just
you have
go
to invite me back.
Yeah, we would love to have you back because this has been a really good conversation. And the other, you talk about the jail What is the jail population, give or take, right now? And are you concerned about the size of the jail population? 201 Poplar, let's focus on that. What people think of as the jail, even though there are these other facilities. And there have been times when it's gotten so big that there are problems that come from having too many people in that facility.
We're not going to call it the jail. We're going to say the Walter Bailey Criminal Justice Complex.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yes, we're usually housing about 2,700 inmates. Now, of course, we're concerned about the population. I have a jail population manager. We're doing all, we received grants from different organizations, foundations, trying to figure out a way how to get people out of jail. Another thing that we hadn't touched on is the mental health issue. We have a mental health crisis here in Shelby County and all across the nation. Shelby County is not exclusive to that. Do
you have the resources you need with just 10 seconds left for mental health in that population?
I don't have the beds. I don't have any places to take these people that should not be in the Walter Bailey Criminal Justice Complex.
All right. Again, we will have you back because there's so much, the 30,000 warrants you mentioned, there's so many things I wasn't able to get to, but I appreciate it. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, Bill, and thank you for joining us. Join us again next week.